We're going to be discussing or having a section that is revolving around multi-screen Flutter, that is navigating app structure. So the whole essence of the call is to enable us learn how to build multi-screen applications using Flutter. So I will introduce myself. My name is Atuoha Anthony, and I'm going to be walking you through this whole workshop. I'm a Google developer expert in Flutter and that, and a mobile software engineer. So we're going to explore how Flutter apps go beyond the single screen, how to structure them well, and how to make navigation clean and intuitive. So I picked up this particular quote from Luke, who is a product director at Google. And from his quote, he mentioned designing for multi-screen isn't just about responsiveness, it's about understanding context, where, when, and how users interact with your app. So navigation is a very key factor, or it plays a very key role to how users see your app. Literally, we have day-to-day applications that we use: WhatsApp, Instagram, LinkedIn, and the way the whole app or the whole screens are intertwined together, or how the interaction is, or how the navigation feels like, gives us UX, even though we might not have UX being like a big factor. Everyone cares about UI, which is user experience, which is a user interface. But user experience also matters. And how your navigation is, or how your navigation structure looks like, or how it is being designed or structures also gives the user a very good user experience. Okay. So the question now is, why multi-screen? So you can build applications that are just single screens, right? But what you need to understand is that if you think about the apps you use daily, like I think the app I use the most is WhatsApp, and WhatsApp and LinkedIn. You see that these apps are not single screens; they have multiple screens, and the multiple screen is the norm. In Flutter, you can manage these transitions and structure your screens to determine how maintainable and how scalable your app will be. So how you structure your screen determines how maintainable it can be and how a user can feel, the user experience a user gets. So if you structure an application or structure a Flutter application, not just Flutter application, if you structure any app you're building in a way that the navigation is not clean, or the navigation keeps the user biased. Let's say I have a home screen and I move from the home screen to the profile screen. And from the profile screen, I press the back button. It's meant to take me back to the home screen, not taking me back to a different screen. Or I can have many screens stacked on top of each other. And look at it this way now. Let me give you a real life scenario. You're building, let's say you have a normal application that has numerous screens, and you have an authentication screen, an authentication flow, which has a login, a register, and possibly a forgot password, and a user has registered, right? So when a user has registered, before a user gets registered and they have your first entry screen, they get to see it reroutes them to the authentication flow where they can log in or register as a new user. Immediately a user has registered, or possibly maybe they remove the app, maybe the next day the app goes to the background or get killed or stuff like that, and they come back to the screen, they come back to the app, tap on the screen, and it takes them back to that login section when they know already they've authenticated. It gives a user a bad user experience. They'll feel like, am I logged out? Possibly they are still logged in, but because you did not set up your routing in the sense that it knows or it listens to when a user is logged in and know that this auth state has changed, instead of presenting the authentication flow or the authentication screen, it should take the user possibly to the next screen. Maybe it could be, let's say if it's a fintech app, it could be a screen where they do their KYC. If it is possible that they've done their KYC, it should take them to the home screen. That is routing, making or creating a screen or a structure, or let's say something that gives a user not just a wonderful experience, but actually create something that a user can see and feel like they are not confused or whatsoever. So it gives them a clean navigation is equal to a better user satisfaction and maintainability. Same goes with building an application that can be maintained as well. So if you structure your app using clean methodologies or clean patterns of navigation, somebody can pick it up. It can also be scalable as well. Okay, let's go over to the next slide. So we also do we also have a demo after the section. So another thing is Flutter navigation. So in Flutter, there are many forms of routing. There are many ways you can you can navigate. And the very first one, which is the one we know, navigator.push, navigator.pop, is the imperative style. It is the one Flutter comes with. It's not like you're not using any external package or an external library or whatsoever for you. And the only thing you have to do is to make use of it. It's the most basic of it. And we have the named routes, ungenerated route and unknown route. So what they call them named routes. They are more organized and they give you a structure that you can use. So in a particular screen that you can have like a detail screen or you can have like a profile screen. Instead of you to be pushing directly to the class of the screen, you can create a route name. And the route name can be /profile, /settings. And anytime you call it up, we are going to make use of it. Anytime you call it up or you make use of it, it gives you exactly that. So you can even define it on possibly on if you want, you can define it on a particular class, or you can put it on the class of the screen. On the screen, maybe the profile screen, you can create a static method or something, depending on how you want to. So one thing I want us to leave this with is that there are good ways of structuring your route. There are bad practices as well, but there is no like how will I put it? There are different methods, different best methods, or different good methods. There is not an awesome that you use that is so there are different structures you can use, and all of them come with different advantages. So we're going to look at almost all of them. I have another one that is called the declarative pattern packages like Go Router and Auto Router. So they are more or less like Auto Router. What it does is it auto generates your routing section. Go Router, I pick Go Router. So Go Router is amazing. Same way with every other navigation system that is out there using the basic navigator API. But personally, I use Go Router. Then we're not going to look at Go Router because of the section. We're going to create something that is simple. Then I have sections on Go Router, which I'll point you out if you want to learn Go Router. Go Router is very easy to use. So I also have a written article on Auto Router, same with Go Router. I'll also point you at the end of the next section, but let's get started with it. Okay. Then we're going to be using the simple navigator API for the first time. So that's what we're going to be making use of. We're going to make use of it so that we can learn how Flutter does this before we start looking at how it's easier for us or how these plugins make it easier for us. So it is used for small applications, and you can also use it to in constructors. So one thing you need to understand is that it's the simplest way of moving between screens. So when you do, like I have a small snippet of code here, which reads push, you passing your content. The push method takes in two arguments. It takes in the context, and then it's in material page router, which is literally where you are pushing it to. And literally, what this does is very simple.
So the picture
It pushes a new screen onto the stack.
Issues, waiting
so if you have like
these sessions.
a burger, you know how burger have a whole lot of things stacked on the burger. I don't even know discuss inside burger, but you know, like there are
So please, I'm so sorry for such technical issues. Oh, our speaker. Let's continue.
sorry, it's raining over here.
Yes, it's internet issues. So no problem. Let's continue.
Okay, amazing. So I don't know where I stopped. So I'll continue from here. So I was mentioning something relating to what we are going to be looking at today, which is using the Simple Navigator API. And I was telling us something relating to the snippet that I have here, just a tiny snippet, which is the easiest way for you to move a particular screen onto the stack. So I was giving an illustration using a hamburger and mentioning a picture of a hamburger. So if you look at a hamburger has it has stuff inside it, stacked inside it. So literally, whenever I have a new screen and I call up another new screen, that new screen gets to be placed on top of that screen that I have. Then I call up another one, it plays on top of it. I call another one, it plays on top of it. So what you can do is just type the picture of a stack. If you type a stack or a hamburger, you see the kind of stuff where a particular food item like tomato or whatsoever that is inside the hamburger, it gets stacked on top of each other, then it forms a hamburger. So that's how literally navigation works. So whenever you call navigator.push, the new screen you're calling on top of it gets stacked on top of it. Then when you call navigator.pop, it removes the last one. And this is great for you to build small applications, work with small screens and stuff like that. But when you're building something bigger, there are better ways to do it. There are more easier ways to do it, or better methods to do it. So the next side is name route. So name route is more scalable, and also it is very easy for you to centralize your route management. So now you're not just building a two-screen app, you're building an app, possibly let's say an e-commerce app where you have a product screen that lists the number of the items, the product a particular vendor is selling, and you want to when you click on it, it takes you to a particular detail screen or stuff relating to that, and you want to be passing possibly an ID of that particular product that you have. So there are many ways you can do this. You can define a particular route name, maybe called slash details or called slash vendor or slash this or slash that or something relating to that. With that particular route name you have, you can always call up that particular screen that you're referencing with it. That way, it gives you something where you can actually manage your routes in a more better way or in a more scalable way. So now you're not just building something that is just small or maybe a militarized application or stuff relating to that. It's like a mid-level application or a mid-level scale application where you see that there are many screens, but it's not like very big, not like 50, 60 screens or stuff relating to that. That is not a best practice for it. So what it does is for bigger apps or middle level apps, hard coding every route is manual. Hard coding every route is manually is very messy. Name route, what it does is it lets you declare your screens in one place. So you can like declare all of these screens that you have into one place inside the material app route. You create it inside the map, inside the material. There's a particular map that we have, which is called inside the material app. There's a particular route map here. So you can declare everything you're working with, all of the routes that you have, which is what we are going to do in this our project today. So you can declare all of it here and also declare how it is going into the screen it is moving into. Like you in your normal web development, we have it that whenever you are referencing slash always, like if you have let's say facebook.com, facebook.com is on the parent entry, is on the entry side of that particular directory. And if you say slash anything, it's still coming to Facebook. But when you say slash, let's say slash profile, it now takes you to the profile section, which is there's a particular route that is being structured that whenever there is slash profile, reroute to this screen. That's exactly what is happening on the home section side. And this is exactly how every single thing that you see, what do you call it? Every single thing that you see that has to do with the website routing, that is web-based routing and mobile-based routing. That's exactly how it works. So same thing is what we're going to do here. We have this first slash, which is slash, without any whatsoever behind it, any text outside the slash, it takes us to the home screen. Then when we have something like slash details, it takes us to the details screen. And one thing else we are doing here, look, okay, we're going to talk about this later, is we want to pass an argument when we are moving to that particular screen. We want to move that particular screen, like you have a particular screen and you're going to the next screen. But when you're going to this next screen, you want to pass a data, you want to pass an information, you want to pass an ID. This is for blog. If you've ever been a web developer or you've ever read blogs, or you see anything relating to maybe a news or whatsoever, maybe BBC or stuff relating to that, when you have the normal home screen where they have list of blogs or list of blog or news for that day, and you click on it, depending on how the app is structured, maybe they're using slugs or they are using any kind of routing pattern. Most of the times, the old method of web development using PHP and native PHP and stuff like that, when you want to related to a new news, maybe a new blog post or a new information or stuff related to that. You pass the ID of that. You pass a route, and then you use something like quotation mark, product ID or ID equal to one. When you get to that section, you now start pulling it out using SQL. I don't know if anybody has have had that experience in the past of old web development tactics we were using then. Then you, when you get the ID there, you now use you use your get method to get the ID that is inside that particular structure, maybe product ID, where the get method gives you that particular ID that is inside that particular that get URL. Then you use it, pull up your SQL, get that data, fetch it, and stuff related to that. So that is actually how this works as well. From that methodology we are using on the web, that is part of what we are going to be doing here. Okay, let's move over to the next section. Then passing and receiving data, yes, that's exactly what I mentioned, where you get to pass data, but this one is different. In mobile or in Flutter, we are going to be doing it in a different way. So what we do is you often need to pass data between screens, let's say like an ID or a username, an object. With name routes, you use arguments literally to send data, and model the route that takes in a context to receive it on the other side. So when you pass it, you receive it on the other side using this particular syntax that is here, depending on the data type or the data of what you are passing in. If you're passing in a string, you receive it as a string. If you're passing in a particular object, a user defined, an object you've defined, let's say a car, or let's say a student, let's say a profile, let's say a user, let's say a doctor model, or whatever that you've defined, you receive it as that as well. Okay, let's move over to the next section because of time, so we can look at the code base. Then another thing is backstack management. So when you move over to the new screen, you also want to, that's another thing. So we can do it in many forms. So in Flutter navigation, it mimics a browser. Screens go on a stack. You can pop back using navigator.pop, replace the current screen, or clear the stack. So literally, whenever I move from the home screen to the profile screen, I've added the home screen onto the stack. When I press the back button on my device, or I have a back button on the screen of the of the profile screen, and I move back. What it does is it calls navigator.pop automatically if you've not defined it yourself. So what it does, a particular screen from the stack, and give you the last screen that was on the stack if you've not replaced it before that new profile screen you've gotten, that new profile screen you've called. That's exactly how it works. So another method is something relating to moving to a new stack or a new screen, but you are replacing what you have previously. This is always used during authentication, or using, maybe you are doing something like sign-in process, and you have something relating to let's say terms and condition or KYC or stuff relating to that. You want to push and replace. So what you want to do is you want to push to this new screen, or you want to replace the other one. So you want to replace that particular screen you have. So what it means is that particular screen that you're pushing from, you are replacing it. And we have another one. So what it does is, if you don't want to go back, if you don't want the user to go back, so if what it does is this, you have a screen, and this screen you are into, if you move to the new screen, you don't want to enter that screen again. You want it to possibly take you back to the previous screen before it got to that screen you were that you pushed from. Then we have another one that is called push and remove until. So this is like removing every single screen you've passed through, you've gone, maybe clearing your stack. You're pushing to a new screen, your home screen, but while pushing to your home screen, you're clearing the stack of the previous screens that we are underlining before you got to this new one. And it's always used for login flows or onboarding sections or stuff relating to that. Okay, let's be a little faster so we can get to move to the code side. Exactly. So, okay, we still have time. Then the next one is organization tips. So, navigation is a very crucial part of your app structuring, or how your app looks like, or what or how your app can be maintained. So also, where you are targeting or where you are like making decisions on how your routing will look like, you also need to look at your code organizations as well. How you organize your code, how you organize your features, how you organize your folders and stuff relating to that. So okay, let me talk more about it a little. So as your app grows, you understand that organizing your code well is very, very essential. Like you structure your app by features, not just by time. Like you can have, if you have, let's say, a profile feature, you have your home feature, you have stuff related to that. It gives you a more practical way or a more maintainable style, not just a more maintainable style. It makes your app more scalable. It helps it to be more maintainable so that when new developers join your project or join your open source project, once they see your folder structure or once they see your project, they already start getting a feeling of what you're doing without even looking at the code base. Once they see this, they see that, they'll be like, wow, this is what this guy is doing here. This is what they've not even looked at the code base because of the structure you've given to it. Now they know and have a feeling of how the routing looks like. So that's another thing to put in mind. Okay, so exactly, scalable navigation. So if you are working on big applications, that is something you need to think of as well. So as your app becomes more complex, say with deep link, AutoGuard, you're doing netted navigations, and this is very, 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 very recommended when you are building app that has a lot of screens. So most people don't use it. It's not like it's something that is a must to use. So my preference is Go Router. When you are building an application that has tons of screens, let's say 50, 60 screens and stuff relating to that. So you would want to not focus on all of this name routing or stuff relating to that or like care about routing. You want to focus on your business logic, focus on possibly on the UI and care less about how the routing looks like. You want something to manage it for you, or you want it to be more scalable, more maintainable, and all of this we've been talking about. You use packages like Go Router and Auto Route. So both of them are amazing. You can look it up. When we are done with the section, I'll give you a very comprehensive article I wrote last year or last 2 years about it, and it's very awesome. So yeah, so let's now move to the live demo. We have covered 27 minutes of our section. So this demo is already on. Okay, I sent the links to Anna, so I think Anna will help me drop the link to the article and the link to the repository on the chat section. So you can clone the repository and also you can also look at the article. So the article covers everything we've talked about today. So we know we have a little time frame for us to discuss everything we are going to work on today. So I wrote an article regarding to this where I mentioned the key factors and a lot of things into more details, dive deep into them, so we can get a more awesome view about it. Okay, so I'll stop sharing this screen and move over to Android Studio. Okay, so I have this board on that part. I think Android Studio will be more better. So I'll be sharing my entire screen so we can get to look at just a minute. Okay, amazing. Okay, so this is what we're going to be building. It's very, very simple. It's just going to build a very simple application. So I've built it already, but I'm going to walk you through every single detail about it. So what we have here is very, very simple. We have just an application that shows you available cars from, this is the home, what the home screen shows you. It shows you the cars that you have, and it has a floating action button here. And when you click on it, it takes you to the profile screen. And when you click on the back to home, it takes you back to the home screen. When you tap on each of the cars, it shows you the car. And you can also use this to go back, or you can use this to go back. So when you go back, it takes you to this. So let's look at this now. So what we have is very, very simple, very, very structured and easy with comments around it. So first of all, this is your normal main.dat, your normal when you create a new project, the normal screen you see. The only thing that is different is this section, which is this route map here and this initial route. That is just what is different. And we're going to talk about it. So first of all, let's look at how the home screen looks like. So we have this. Let's look at the home screen. So if you go over to the home screen, we see that the home screen is just your normal UI, just a very small UI. So just a normal UI that calls of that has a list view builder, and this list builder shows you details of calls of this car list inside our model here. So we have a very small car model here, which has an ID, a name, an image URL, and a description. And we created just dummy cars, a car list, a very dummy car list that has just different cars. So what we are doing on this home.dat is just to populate this particular car list in here. So we have a normal list style. We have a card, and this card takes in a list style. This list style has a content padding. The leading is this circle avatar, which is the network image of this particular each of these cars. Each of these cars are network images. What I mean by network images is that they are images on the online, on the cloud, to say. So they're internet images. They are not local into my system. So what I need to use to preview them is a network image. So if it is an image that is inside my assets, I will use asset image. So it takes in another thing, which is the title. The title is literally just the car name here. The subtitle is just the car description. Then when I tap on it, that's where the work now starts. So before we go into this, let's look at how we did this declaration. When we are talking about, we are relating to something about named routes, and we're talking about how to use them, when to use them, and stuff relating to that. And we talked about that it's being structured in the route map of the material app, in the route map. So this is a map. What this map does is very simple. We are defining the route name and also determining the screen it goes to. So if I refresh or I hot reload this app, it knows from what I've defined here that the first particular entry screen or entry whatsoever is the home screen. How? Because of this I defined here, because of this slash. And how did I define it? I mentioned that initial route is this particular slash. So the initial route is this. It means that at every single interval, whenever I call up this, whenever I refresh this, or when user comes up to this, what they get to see is this particular home screen. Then we define another one, which is the detail screen. So this detail screen is being referenced using slash details. So I've defined it already in my main.dat, defined every single detail I want in there. And now what I'm doing is I've already structured it, and it has a structure. And this structure is giving me exactly what I want, right? And another thing I did is also to structure the profile screen. So the profile screen is also structured that when I use slash profile, it takes me to this profile screen. Then, just a minute.
Yes, I just wanted to notify that your presentation not visible.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wait when you share the screen. No problem.
Yeah, just a minute. Okay, thank you so much. So I've structured the detail screen, and whenever anywhere I am in my application or in my code structure that I mentioned slash detail, you should know that, hey, Flutter, take me to detail screen. That is where I want to go. Anytime I structure something and I mention slash profile, please take me to my profile screen. So this is me now structuring my route using named route. I'm structuring my route. I'm defining my route. I'm defining it and making sure that this is exactly how it looks like. This is exactly what it's going to do for me. This is exactly what this takes me to. So if I do something relating to this, take me to this. If I do something relating to this, take me to this. So now we are doing it on our screen here, where we have our home screen. So this is where we have. So a list style has a particular property called on tap. So when I click on tap, what do? I call up navigator.push name. So when we are discussing on our presentation about routing, we mentioned something about named route. So named route gives you an advantage for you to define a particular route or a particular screen using its route name. So that is me using this basic API, this navigator API, to call up this. Once I call up this, it takes two things. It takes, okay, look at how it looks like. It takes the build context, it takes the route name, and it takes an optional object. This optional object can be of any type. It can be a string, it can be a user-defined model, it can be any single thing you're passing in. So what I did here is very simple. I passed in the context, I passed in this detail. So it's not a must I will need to hard code this. I don't necessarily need to hard code all of this. So it's not even the best practice for me to hard code them. I can have them here on my detail screen and reference them. Maybe use a static method. I can use a static property, sorry. I can use a static property here, call it up, know that I've already defined it here, or I can have a particular, maybe a class, and call it route names or call it route config or stuff relating to that and mention all of these routes in the sense that I don't need to be typing it. I don't need to be manually type slash details. I can make a mistake and then I'll have an issue or stuff relating to that. But for this, we just keep it very simple. You can always extend and make it more good as you progress, as you play around with it. Then what we are doing here is very easy and very simple. We are calling up this, and why calling up this, relating to what we've done on the home screen here, on the main dot dash, we already defined that once I come to this side, please call up this detail screen for me. Like, show me this detail screen. That's what I want to see. So I've already defined that anytime somebody uses this name route or uses this string, this is just a string. So whenever this string is being called upon or is being utilized in the named route in navigator.push name, anytime this particular string is, this is what I want you to show me. This is what the screen I want you to put on the stack for me. So that's what we are doing here. So we just called it up here. And another thing we are doing is we are passing in the car, this particular car. So we have list view. This list view is creating this of type car. So we can just say car, which is this car is coming from this model that we created here, which is this car here. So what are we doing? We are doing something relating to this. Whenever I click on this, please take all of these objects, everything relating to this car, this particular car that I have here, which is BMW M4, take it, pass it to the detail screen for me, please. So that's what we are doing in here. Once we click on it, it goes to the detail screen. But when it goes to the detail screen, what do we want to do? We want to pass that particular car which we clicked on, that particular one. So once we click on this BMW M4, it comes to this section. But what happens on this section now? So this particular car has been passed. So let's go back to the detail screen and see what happens. So we've passed it. We talked about this during our presentation side. Now we're seeing it in code. So when we come to the detail screen, we are getting that particular car, which is that argument that is being passed using model.route.context, using this structure. So what we are doing relating to this is just to retrieve the car object that was passed during the argument. And what you need to also pay attention to is this. If I change this to strange and say that the object I'm getting is a strange, if I say it's a strange, let's just say I didn't define this and I said this. So literally, even if this is out, this will throw an error for you because what is passed is not a strange. Is not the object is not a strange. Is a car that we've defined. So you need to also pay attention to what you're casting it as. So we are casting it as a car in the sense that we know for a fact that what we are passing is a car. So that car we've passed, just as simple as using our named route here, I'm passing the argument car, which is this car that is here. And in our detail screen, we use this syntax to get this car here, cast it as a car. That way, we can reference every single detail about the car, which is using the app bar title. We call the app bar title, the name of the car, the image here. We created an image here, just a very simple structure here, where we called in, we're using image.network. We use clip arrow X to give it a tiny border radius, and then we call the car image URL. Give it a small width and a small height and made it to fit. And that is what we are doing in here. Then one thing that you need to pay attention to is that we are no longer on the home screen. What we've done is that we've moved to the next screen and we did not delete or remove the previous screen we are into. We are on before, sorry. What we just did is we just added an apple on top of another apple. So we just stacked a screen on top of another screen. That gives us an ability for us to move back to the other screen we came out from. We can move back to the screen by easily using navigator.pop as we learned during the presentation. So what we can do is automatically, once you call up an app bar, the app bar is structured in a way that the leading part of it, the leading property of it, takes in immediately is a screen that is stacked. It takes in this particular navigation button here, and this navigation button automatically calls navigator.pop. So once I click on it, it goes back. Assuming I use push push replace. If I replace it, assuming I pushed it and replaced it and replace this particular screen, we can't go back to this screen again. Or we push it and then remove it until that is using that particular structure. where we remove everything that is underlining before. We can't go back to this again. We're only going back to this because it's still there. It's still there waiting for us on the underlining side. It's just on top of it. It's just stacked on top of it. So if we go back to maybe this particular object here, this Tesla here, we get to see the same thing. Then what we are doing is very simple. We have an elevator button here. Just, we're not talking about UI, so I know we are good with UI. We're just learning about navigation and structure. So we just have a very tiny structure here. An elevator button that takes in an icon, a back arrow icon, takes in a label. What does it do? It just do navigator.pop, and we pass in the context. So this is exactly what this is doing. So what we structured here is what this does, but we did not see it anywhere here. So it's not here because automatically this is a stack screen, and this stack screen automatically takes a leading. So automatically what you are seeing, even though it's not there, we have a leading, and this leading takes in an icon, and what it does just has a back button. You can just say, we can define it ourselves, back button. That's exactly what you see there. So by default, so you just say this, and once you click on it, it navigates back. So there's no need to define it. This is already there. It's a stack screen. So that is exactly what we are doing in this section. So another thing we did is navigating to the profile screen. So as we just have three screens: the home screen, the profile screen, and the detail screen. So we have an elevator button on this home screen, just a very tiny stuff. And the elevator button is in here. What are we doing? We are doing an action where once you click on it, it takes me to the profile screen. So the same way the same way we are handling the detail screen, but this time around, we're not passing any argument, nothing whatsoever. We just use a very simple syntax, which is navigator.push name. We pass in the context, and we pass in the route name that we want to pass. So once we click on it, once we click on this elevator button, it takes us to the profile screen. So on the profile screen, we just have a very simple syntax, just a very, very simple structure, where we have just the center widget, which takes in a column and takes in all of this. And look, what is here is this is just a network image that is inside a string, and that's where we are calling it up here as a network image here. And we have an elevator button. This elevator button is just taking us back. And as I mentioned, we have an app bar, and the app bar automatically takes in the back button. Once we click back, it takes us back. Once we click in here, it takes us in. So that's exactly what we are doing. And that covers literally what we've done in this section and explaining how the routing mechanism works and stuff relating to that. So I think we have, just a minute, I think we have something else on the slide. So let me share the screen for the slide. Just a minute. Okay, so in this live demo that we covered, we navigated between three screens. We passed data, we handled back button navigation, and we maintained the clean structure. So all of this we are handled using just the basic navigation API. So it can be extended. You can use Go Router, you can use Auto Route, you can use it and explore what of the big things it can give to you or the awesome things it can give to you for more maintainability, more scalability. That doesn't mean that if you have 50 screens and you're using the basic navigator API that it will not work. No, it will work perfectly. It will give you exactly what you want. Most people use it. I used to use it. I still use it. Okay, let's move on to the next section. So that is us wrapping up. So one thing I want you to understand is that navigation is not just going back and forth. So navigation can determine how your user feels, the user experience the user gets. And a good structure gives you a scalable app or a scalable code base. And also, it's very nice for you to keep your navigation clean and centralized so you can be able to maintain it and also keep it structured. Just like when we are coding the string / details, someone else can come into our team and possibly maybe type, the system can freeze and the person type details and type in one L and the system freeze and he thought he's not seeing it and he types in another L and that will be it. He will run through a particular hours of debug, not knowing that what the problem is, it's just that he types in a double L. So that's literally about it. Then I think this is the end of the section. So I will say thank you for it. So as I mentioned, I have an article here, which is something you can look at. You can look at the article at another time. I think Anna shared it on the screen, so you can look at it and go through it. It has the whole structure of what we discussed here in more in-depth view. So you can look at it later onwards. Everything is explained just the same way I explained it. But we're working on a time frame, so it has every structure and it has the completed project. So this is written because of this particular section or this workshop that we have, so that you can be able to listen to the section and also get a better overview about it. So thank you so much for listening. Thank you for staying on the call.